Good evening and welcome to Cooperative Vermont. I'm Matt Cropp.
And I'm Eric Davis.
And we're coming to you live this Sunday, August 11th at 7 p.m. at VCAM Studios in Burlington, Vermont. And we have a pretty interesting show this evening. We'll be starting off with some cooperative movement news and then proceeding to a discussion of hackerspaces, kind of collective workshop model that's seems to be spreading quite a bit recently. And we'll be discussing that with the president and vice president of Burlington's own Hackerspace, Laboratory B. But first, the news.
Some really exciting news with Granite City Grocery having called in the pledges. It's a project that we've been following for a while. And they've now put out the call to membership to call in the equity. And they have had 174 members pay in their equity. So it looks like that project is continuing to grow and come to fruition.
Yeah, and that money will be, as they continue collecting the pledges, I think there's 600 some pledges right now, but as they pull that in, that will be the money that is then leveraged for additional capital and towards the space in downtown Barrie. And they're actively looking at it. I think the report from the Facilities Committee should be coming out relatively soon, and we'll have a better sense of where the co-op will be located in Barrie. But this is this pretty big step where they're going from pledges to actually calling an equity. But speaking of food co-ops, another City Market is turning 40, and in our last episode we actually had a couple of people on who are involved in the early years. So if you want to check that out, you can always go to our Facebook page or YouTube channel. But they're working on some additional historical stuff, including interviews, and they've reached out to the community to see if any people who have been involved at various points in its development want to come and give kind of oral histories. So there should be a presentation at the annual meeting, which always comes with a good brunch. So if anyone out there is watching, was involved in City Market in the 70s or 80s and want to sort of tell stories about it, you can head over to their website or Facebook page to get plugged in.
And if you want to know a little bit more about the history, check out our YouTube page for the last episode.
And then also another little bit of news is the New England Federal Credit Union it used to share its building with the Credit Union League, but they've moved to different facilities, and they demolished the old building and just completed construction on a new one on Shelburne Road. So if you're driving down Shelburne Road and see a giant new credit union, they were open. I think it was the 5th of August was their first day of operation.
Always good to see the cooperative financial community expanding and growing.
Yep. More credit unions, less banks. And finally, Keep BT Local, the campaign to turn Burlington Telecom into a subscriber-owned cooperative is proceeding apace. There was I helped out with some tabling at the farmers market, and they've started doing something that I think is actually poking around. I think might be the first time a co-op has done this, but they're going to be doing, after every board meeting, a video update from a member of the board to kind of keep people in tune with what's going on, what's the latest. So we've got a short video of Laredo Sola, the board president, giving an update about Keep BT Local. And then when we get back from that, we'll be moving into our interview with our guests.
Hi, co-op members. My name is Laredo Sola. I'm chairman of the Keep BT Local Co-op Board. I'm here to give you an up-to-date, up-to-the-minute summary of our board meeting, July 25th, that I just got out of. The big news this board meeting is we now have, there you see it, Keep BT Local lawn signs. Every one of you, as a result of your membership, is entitled to your own free lawn sign. Please go to the website, find out the details of how to get a hold of these signs, put them up in your lawn, create some great impressions, talk to your neighbors about it, spread them around town. We need the exposure. In other news, we have been working at tabling in various locations. We set up information tables at places like the farmers market, the co-op, and various other locations. Please go to the website, volunteer, get involved with us, come and help us out at these tabling locations. Or if you're in the area, if you're at the farmers market, come up and talk to us while we're at the tabling locations. We'd love to have you. We'd love to share information. We'd love to have you participate in the tabling. In addition, the board has been very busy preparing a PowerPoint presentation. As you know, in addition to the equity that we'll get from members such as yourself, we also need to go to the financial community and key investors in Burlington to raise additional funds to purchase the assets of BT. We're preparing a PowerPoint presentation, and the board is seriously engaged in that whole process. So as you can tell, even though it's the middle of the summer and we're all having a good time outside with this lovely weather in Burlington, the co-op is moving ahead, the board's engaged, things are happening. We'd love to get your involvement. Check out the website. Check out all the work that we're doing there. For example, we're doing an infographic. That infographic will help explain the timeline of the co-op. We'd love to have help from any of you who are graphic artists. Again, go to the website. Let us know how you can help us. We'd love to engage you in the process. So that's the news. We'll see you again in a few weeks at the next board meeting. Take care. Bye-bye.
So that's the brief update from Keep BT Local. And finally, there's a few before we jump into the interview, a few events to announce. The first is there's New Economy Week is coming up in October. And a group of us got together last week to discuss what the co-op section of that will look like. And there's a group of people from the FAT, which is kind of a union, kind of a cooperative organization in Mexico, who will be touring the United States. And so they'll be giving a presentation and there'll also be some discussion about Vermont Co-ops at that. And that's going to be October 15th from 6 to 8 p.m. We don't have a location yet, but that should be coming shortly. So keep an eye on our Facebook page if you want to get those details as they emerge. And then sort of sooner, and also relating to our guests, we'll be having our next co-op happy hour at the Laboratory B, where there'll be a short presentation again about the Hackerspace model. And there'll also be there's a small group of Japanese students who are going to be visiting the United States to learn about co-ops and the solidarity economy in the U.S., and they will be in attendance as well. So if you want to stop by and grab a cold beverage and some pizza and chat about co-ops and hackerspaces and other such things, September 10th, which is a Tuesday, will be the date for that. So without further ado, welcome Sam and Justin, President and Vice President of Laboratory B.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
So maybe to start off, do you guys want to tell us a little bit about kind of, what is a hackerspace?
A hackerspace is a place where people can go to share their activities, teach other people all about things relating to computers, computer security, electronics projects, such as Arduino for people familiar with that. But we do expand out there into anything that you want to learn more about that is a creative problem. And we will try and help you solve that to the best of our ability.
And what's the origin of the idea of a hackerspace?
Well, basically, so back in the mid-90s in Germany, there was an organization called the Chaos Computer Club, and they got together and members were already working on interesting projects, investigating technology that they had around the house, repurposing things for just brand new and novel creations, making artwork, these sort of things. And after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the reunification of Germany, there's a lot of available warehouse space from the old Soviet era, controlled areas. So they were able to form the first sort of hackerspace called Seabase, which they have then built a very amusing legend around and this sort of things. You should research it online. But the idea really took off because of these technology enthusiasts coming together. And so another hackerspace sprung up rather quickly in Vienna called MetaLab, and MetaLab was able to work out the sort of democratic political process needed to govern hackerspaces and a financing model that was basically member-driven. So by having the members contribute monthly and with real estate being somewhat affordable, they were able to have a space to do whatever they wanted with, and begin their projects and teach others to do the same. And so now, after the mid 2000s or so, we've got hackerspaces popping up all over the place. I believe over 100 around the world now, and it's growing.
So, you guys have the honor to be the first not actually cooperative we've had on the show, but I think hackerspaces really embody a lot of what organizations that are incorporated as a cooperative do as well, like people coming together to meet a common need and the democratic governance. And could you talk a little bit about sort of the essence of a hackerspace?
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a hard time deciding whether we were going to be a nonprofit or a co-op. And we are essentially governed a lot like a co-op, where all of our members have equal voting rights. We do have a board of directors and officers, but that is more of a mandate to become an actual corporation than it is to any part of our governance. We, as officers, have more responsibility but no more power. We're really just there to be a point of contact for people. The thing that really got us with nonprofits, and this is something that hackerspaces are doing all over the country, is that it does allow us to accept grants targeted at nonprofits, and it provides corporations a way to get something back from us when they give us money, which is a tax write-off. And it is the hardest thing about a hackerspace is finding the money to support the tools and the projects and the supplies that we need to make our classes for little to no cost to public, which we provide even to non-members. So that funding coming from corporations and other people that can get something back immediately without investing in something.
So in many ways, like when you mentioned classes, it seems like sort of at one of those core values, you could say, of like the hackerspace model is education.
Absolutely.
Do you guys see them as kind of almost an education, primarily like an educational institution, or what are the different pieces or sort of roles of the space or the organization?
Well, in our articles of incorporation, we specifically mention the need to benefit the public, to incorporate, as a nonprofit for the public good, and that education is one of the primary things that we're offering. So, how it differs from a traditional educational opportunity is that it is very much charismatically driven by the members, and so it's really a place to come together where when you're passionate about something in technology, you have a place to begin to explore that, and then you can share your discoveries and your understanding with others and invite them along with you. And so we've very recently had a series of new programming language workshops just sort of organically develop that I'm now participating in. So I didn't know the language Ruby before, and I'm beginning to learn the basics of it. And that was entirely driven by one of our members who is currently transitioning in his job and wanted to flesh out his resume more and his skill set. So when you have that desire and you have that just passion to go and learn about something, it's a way to find support and resources to fully explore that.
And when thinking, you mentioned this idea that there's now like 100 hacker spaces in the world. Like how much do you feel like they kind of like influence each other versus how much are they very autonomous from each other and kind of doing their own thing and maybe share some basic values but have like fundamentally different characters?
I would say that most hackerspaces are fairly autonomous from all the other ones, but everyone has. There is a hackerspace list that is open to the public, and it's worldwide. Most hackerspaces, if not all, have at least someone subscribed to those hackerspaces. and there are challenges that get put out there, and there are things like silly sticker exchanges that go on through there. But at the same time, there are serious questions about, how do we deal with this problem and how do we deal with that? And other people that have experienced those problems can help contribute to the other hackerspaces. There's also sort of a hackerspace passport thing that gets going around where members of hackerspaces from all over the world can visit other hackerspaces and do sort of like an information exchange and get stamped saying that I've visited Lab B in Burlington, Vermont, or I've visited New York City Resistor, or stuff like that. And there is a community there, like sort of a worldwide community where if you are a member of a hackerspace, other hackerspaces are going to be very welcoming to you. So you can go anywhere in the world and have immediate connections in these places that you've never been to and might not have ever had anybody to talk to.
So it sort of functions as a hub where it's you know where to go to find the like-minded community.
Yeah, the commonalities really orient themselves around the protocol. The ways of governance, the opportunities available, the sort of people you might find there, opportunities that you can join in at, rather than some sort of it's not like a national network or international network or something where there's some giant hackerspace convention for the world. But who knows? Maybe if it grows large enough, there'll be some massive convention, and I wouldn't be surprised. It's all organic though. It's driven by the members, so we'll see what it turns into. And
so when thinking about that sort of that looseness, organicness, with governance, has that sort of settled on? Do most hackerspaces follow the same model as Lab B, sort of going for the nonprofit but kind of member run sort of through member democracy, or are there other models that are tried? And what does that landscape look like?
I think I don't know if I can say all, but most hackerspaces do go for a member-driven governance kind of thing. There are certain hackerspaces that have grown so large that it's become difficult to include all of the members in all of the decisions. But even then, they have ways of accepting user or member feedback. And every hackerspace that I've been to and experienced has taken every single member's input very seriously in any decision that's being made. And that's not just some financial institution saying, "Oh yes, we accept input, put the note in the box, and we'll deal with it some other time." A lot of it is person to person, and most hackerspaces know everybody in the community, even the ones that are hundreds of people. There is that direct personal relationship of that local community inside the hackerspace. Even if the issues when a person has a personal issue with another person in the hackerspace, those get worked out through the hackerspace. There's a support system there. So yes, I would say that most hackerspaces are entirely member-driven.
So how did Laboratory B in Burlington come about?
Well, I think that was, I can't say that I was one of the original. There was a group of 4 or 5 people. Were you one of them?
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you talk because you were more...
Okay. So basically, all the way back I went to UVM for computer science in college in the early 2000s. And back then, there was a local chapter of 2600 that would meet above the coffee area at Borders Bookstore when that was open, first Fridays of each month. And it's 2600 is a worldwide sort of hacker meetup, and people will just start a chapter wherever, and it's just once a month, very low key discussion, ways to find other people that are technology enthusiasts and into security technology and that sort of thing. And so there was a small core of us that had been meeting and occasionally doing other things outside of just the 2600 meetups. And life got busy, and when a bunch of us eventually settled back here in the area after exploring other job opportunities and things like that. Then we just wanted to get that going again. But this time we had more people interested in this sort of participatory, exploratory technology environment. So previously I had helped start a number of other sort of community-based spaces. Some were official, some not. I was system administrator for land centers for a while, so I sort of was a part of that community and learned some of the skills needed to bring that stuff together. So we just eventually had a 2600 meetup, realized there were enough people interested, and said, let's make this happen. So I remember walking through the city after that meetup one night, like, I'll bet I know enough people here in town that we can have something, solid after tonight. And sure enough, I met up with a friend of mine who I wasn't even aware of his current living situation, but had purchased a house and was cultivating a sort of non-traditional living environment there, which was really cool just to sort of stumble into this, like, wow, it's like a party, but not. It's people, everyone's just being creative and expressing themselves, and it's a lot of fun and, really cool, but not part of the normal party scene. So I walk into this with my friend, Kevin, who was a representative from 2600 and really had a passion to make sure that all the T's were crossed and I's were dotted when it came to making a hackerspace happen here. And by the end of the night, after finding my friend, we were able to rent out half of some of his office space, and that was enough then to get a start. So we just sort of called the troops in, gathered what tech we could, old computers, desks, things like that, brought it all together and started working on projects. And literally came together in a night.
And then how has it evolved since then, since that night? Now, we've officially filed our paperwork and are a Vermont nonprofit in that sense, although don't have tax exempt status yet. 501c3 is still waiting on the federal government for that. But we've had 2 new spaces. The first one where we were, there was some miscommunication about the renewal of the lease, and unfortunately, we weren't able to maintain that space. But we had a taste for it. So about a year later, we were able to find space in the Hood plant, and this was fantastic. So we initially looked at the space we're in now, and a few hours before we were ready to sign the lease, unfortunately it got snatched up. Yep. But it turns out that the space next door became available, and it wasn't ideal, but it was enough to get our foot in the door. And so we just sort of waited until an opportunity arose to get into this other space that has real industrial power, industrial ventilation, and all the sort of resources we might need, because it used to be a glass blowing studio. So now it's a hackerspace.
Yeah, cool.
But so we're these. It's a perfect supervillain lair. We have we're in the freezer of an old Hood plant. We have a blast door. Yeah. Everything's brick and underground and all this, and it's just a blast. Though you go and you bring your stuff, and it's awesome.
Yeah. I got involved during that first space, the one where we had the miscommunication around the lease, and I've got to say that still is my favorite place that we've been at yet. It was like just the building had a feel to it that lent itself really well to us. Like it was, there was like a door access code, and we'd go in late at night, and it felt like an abandoned corporate facility, and we'd sneak up the stairs and unlock our door and go in and we'll work through the night, which was just really cool. And our new space is still really, really awesome, and we're starting to get more ramped up into more projects and more our classes. We're doing the soldering workshop more often, which is going to be happening at the Maker Faire again this year.
Well, I think that's a pretty good segue into what are the educational opportunities that are there for people. So the soldering workshop and programming workshop, which is really cool. That sounds very interesting. I might join sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what other types of things are going on?
Well, we don't have any other classes running right now, but the other thing that we will do completely impromptu is teach you how to use the tools that we have safely. It's very important before we get you, anybody in the public, into our space and using our tools, that they know how to not hurt themselves. And we do have like a wide range of people. We've had kids in their teens come in, and we've taught them how to do stuff like soldering, or how to make their own website, or play with different programming languages, stuff like that. But anytime we have a tool, we got to make sure that they're going to use it responsibly and not hurt themselves or others. So completely impromptu, if you come in and you're interested in learning how to use a tool that we have, anybody that's there can usually teach you how to do it safely.
And one thing that that I've particularly enjoyed, I've been a member for like 2 months now, but is Thursday is just kind of the open lab.
Yes.
It's been sort of interesting to sort of be in that space and just see people kind of come in with problems. I remember I came in once and there's someone who had come in with the problem of like she'd had things hacked, and I think she had just finished getting some wisdom from you, Justin.
Oh yeah, no, that was a little more scary. There was somebody who was able to gather publicly available information due to her online presence, and was sending sort of specifically tailored messages to her in an intimidating fashion. And she had gone to the police, and unfortunately there wasn't really enough of a threat in it yet to pursue it further. It also appeared to be somebody who was not native to the United States, so it would make it even more complicated. But I was very surprised and very, sort of flattered that the officer sent her down to the Hackerspace to come and investigate. So I was able to trace the origin of these messages through a spam network that was coming out of Eastern Europe. And basically, although it would be difficult to exactly pinpoint who was doing it, it's not the kind of thing where you need to be overly concerned. It seems more like a what's known as a spear phishing sort of attack, where it's like you try to learn about somebody and you try to get them to do something for you or click on a link for whatever purpose. But anyway, I was able to coach her at least in how to respond with this sort of thing. So, you gather information, you don't reply at first, you don't freak out because they really don't have that much power in the situation yet. But you just keep good notes, and if things do escalate, well, here's the time to go to the police. Here's the time to, hire a private investigator. Here's the other steps there. So, that was just totally random, and really happy to be able to help.
I hadn't even heard of that.
Yeah.
So these open lab times are a space where community members can come in and sort of check out the space and talk to members.
Absolutely. We definitely welcome the public in during hours. What are our public hours right now?
So on the business cards, it officially says Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5:30 to 8, I think. Tuesdays have not been a good day. So Thursdays, 5:30 to 8 is usually better. And unfortunately, not all of us get out of work at the consistent times, so we make our best effort. We'll be there by 6 probably. Mm-hmm. So,
and if you do want us there for a certain time, if you send an email to our list, which is info@laboratoryb.org, we can usually make special arrangements for the public to come in during off hours.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that you guys brought up a little bit earlier was the scaling issue with hackerspaces in general, and saying, okay, like it's one thing to have a group to have good participatory democracy, a group with a dozen people. It's another thing to be looking at something in New York City with hundreds of members. do you want to talk a little bit about sort of, if you know about it, like the ways in which hackerspaces have scaled up and have dealt with that problem, and sort of how, and then maybe like in terms of Lab B, kind of as the membership has grown, has anything kind of changed, or you needed to do things differently because of that?
I don't think we've gotten to the point where we need to change anything, and that's probably not something that we're going to need to deal with in the immediate future. But something that the other hackerspaces tend to do is they have volunteer committees where people that are invested in an issue can get together, and the membership will, if they're interested in this committee, then they'll join the committee. If they're not interested in it, then they'll trust that the committee is going to make a decision in the best effort for the entire community. So it's not like anybody's been assigned to it or anything like that. It's just this issue has come up, who wants to take this? And if there isn't enough people interested in the issue, then usually it falls on either the officers of the board of directors to make the decision. But it goes to the membership first to form a committee and make a decision and present that to the rest of the membership. So that's how I've seen a couple of other hackerspaces do it.
Mm-hmm. And how large is NoiseBridge? Because
oh boy, I couldn't even guess how large NoiseBridge is. NoiseBridge is a major hackerspace in San Francisco, I believe. Yeah.
Yep.
And they have they've gotten to the point where they also have a what's called a tech shop, where people can come in, and they basically kind of have like a shop where people can sell stuff out of. So they'll go in, they'll use the tools, and they'll donate. They'll pay for the materials that they use, and then donate additional money for the time used on the equipment, and they'll build something to sell at the shop. And some things become really popular, and they spin off into their own little companies. It's sort of become like a generator for local businesses.
Yeah, like an incubator almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So NoiseBridge and a few other spaces that have gotten that big have, in addition to doing the fabrication stuff, they move into fabrication shops.
Mm-hmm. And then it sounds like a marketing element to it too.
Exactly. It's an additional way to fund the hackerspace and provide additional teaching opportunities and stuff like that to the community at large.
But it really seems that so our bylaws at Laboratory B were based on NoiseBridge's bylaws, mm-hmm. And so the fact that they've been able to scale so well really, I think, lends credibility to the ways that hackerspaces are organizing, because whether it's small or large, whether it's a 24-hour facility or just a couple times a week. Then I really think this member-driven participatory democracy, posing problems before the community and allowing the community to rise to the occasion to solve it, usually leads to success.
So one thing that the NoiseBridge, which I didn't know much about before you just mentioned it, example sort of raises a question of, is that so within these kind of, I guess you could say, like well-developed hackerspaces, like, do you have like a subset of the membership who like make their living at if they're selling things through the store or the shop or whatever? Is there a subset who are actually sort of like the hackerspace is their profession, or is it just kind of like a hobbyist sideline where if it reaches that level they move it out of the space?
I honestly I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but I want to say that I believe the workshop or the vendor area, the shop part of it, is another entity that is then contracted with the NoiseBridge specific nonprofit. So if it ever gets that sort of sticky where you have decision making difficulties, or and money can pollute a lot of things. So if that ever becomes a point of contention, you can always just spin it off and then have that be something separate. But certainly plenty of companies start out of research done at hackerspaces, but that governance will be separate, and the fact that the member may be a decision maker in that other organization and a member over in the hackerspace, that can live in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about this participatory democratic culture at the Hackerspace. What does that actually look like at Laboratory B? Like, how often do the members get together and have meetings and sort of discussions about where the laboratory is going, and so forth?
Well, so we haven't had as regular all-member meetings as I would have liked, maybe. So we're about down to one a season, I think, every couple of months. But in our bylaws, it states we have to post a 30-day notice, which makes it difficult to get anything done right away. But the laws work, and we've haven't encountered too many difficulties. So. But yeah, so we've got another all-member meeting coming up in the next couple weeks in preparation for our hop, because one of the destination sites being at the Hood plant on the Art Walk. So make sure that we've got all of our tech projects in order, and a theme sort of to standardize on and that sort of thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Some actual interesting projects for people to come and look at.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And going on to the scale thing, one other thing that I was wondering about is just sort of like, do you know of any hackerspaces where at a certain scale they've almost divided or become multiple, like, or does it tend to be that like in any one city or one town there's one hackerspace and everyone just kind of congeals into it?
I don't know about hackerspaces splitting, but I know that New York City got big enough that there is multiple hackerspaces. I think there's at least 3. Mm-hmm. And the first one being New York City Resistor. And they were really big, but they do have like an upper limit to the size of the membership that they allow. And it's really hard to become a new member as part of New York City Resistor. So that has spawned other things. And New York City is big enough that it's hard for some people to get to certain parts of the city, or it takes too much time. So there are some that have created just based off of the locale that they have. Mm-hmm. I don't know about other parts of the country, but I'm willing to bet that if you have a large city like New York City, there is going to be more than one hackerspace. We are the only hackerspace in Vermont. I know the makers are looking at starting their own space, which we totally encourage them to do. And we are actively working with them on some things, and we do collaborate on some projects and talk to them, though that hasn't happened in a while. They are all really nice people, and I encourage you guys to meet them too.
Well, we'll be at Maker Faire,
yes.
The Champlain Mini Maker Faire, in late September. So that'll be a great time to reconnect and do all that.
And before we get into you guys also went to DefCon, which is sort of the big hacker convention in Las Vegas. But are there any other kind of things that you feel like we haven't hit on yet, just sort of in terms of thinking how people who are sort of interested in kind of cooperation generally should think about hackerspaces and sort of what can be done to support their spread and their success?
I would say if you want to support our spread, just stop by, say hi, tell us that you're interested, tell us what your interests are, and maybe we'll be able to find something to encourage you in your pursuits, even if you don't become a member. But if you stop by and say hi and just say, hey, we like what you're doing, keep it up, that would do all of our members a great service, and just keep on keeping on.
And you don't have to be an expert in any particular field to come and join us at the Hackerspace. You just have to be passionate about learning about something, because we all start as noobs sometime, and in fields that we're not already familiar with. So just jump in. Bring something down if you have a project, and come let us know, and we'll see what we can do.
Cool. And so before. Sort of, I think as a transition to the discussion about the conference you guys were just at, I think it might be useful for people, like we've been bandying about the word hackerspace, and this is DefCon's kind of a hacker convention, but maybe to talk a little bit about kind of when we throw out the word hacker, what is being referred to in general. Like if you guys want to take a stab at that briefly.
So I'd say that there's sort of three definitions of hacker. There's the original definition of hacker, which I'm very, very fond of, which is a person that creatively solves unique problems, or they get around roadblocks that they find in whatever they're working on. Is sort of like the essence of a hacker, and in addition to wanting to learn and encouraging learning. And then there's sort of the media connotation of hacker, which is these anonymous bad people on the internet that are going to steal all your financial data and make your life hell, which is exclusively media. That we don't accept that at all, and that's completely wrong. And the last one is sort of it's just a computer geek, which is too restrictive for hacker. You don't have to be about computers to be a hacker. You can be a model train hacker, someone that finds creative solutions to anything, really. If you want to figure out a new way to teach someone how to identify trees, that finding that solution and asking those questions is what is a hacker.
A lot of, at least in American hacking culture, a lot of folks started out on phones. They didn't start out with computers because they just weren't available. I mean, back in the 70s, who had a personal computer? So almost no one. But yeah, there's been a lot of great technical investigation and just things over the years done with whatever the particular device or technology or pursuit was. And yeah, it's all about thinking outside the box and finding creative solutions to things.
And so DefCon is a gathering of 15,000 or so such people.
Yep. I believe we broke 15,000 this year.
Wow.
So tell us a little bit about what is DefCon?
DefCon is a computer security conference specifically focused on new and emerging things inside computer security and educating people about what's going on. There is it's also like a very, very large community of people that are in various computer security industries that just go there to meet up. And we're this year we kind of transitioned a little bit away from the talk-centric conference, and we expanded what we call our villages, which are very specific areas of the conference, like the hardware village, where people come and play with electronic devices and circuit boards and learn how to do soldering and play around and talk to these people that do some really low-level electrical engineering. And there's other ones like the lock-picking village, where you can come and show up and learn how to pick locks. And it's surprisingly easy, and most people can pick it up in under 5 minutes. And a lot of times they don't need instruction. They show the tools, how the tools work, and they're off, and they're just figuring it out, and then they'll be stuck in there for 6 hours, and just look up and be like, oh, where did the time go?
So these villages are like hands-on.
Yeah, they're very hands-on.
Absolutely.
And then there are some really prominent people in each of the subset of the villages that show up, and they interact directly with these random strangers, and it's really cool. It's like this is the prominent hacker in the world, or this is the prominent lockpicker in the world, and I'm getting to talk to him, and he's showing me how he's doing stuff, and it's great. It's a community. That's what it is. You have anything to add?
Well, they expanded into an entirely secondary village based on tamper evidence. So you could, the whole idea was to figure out whether or not something had been tampered with, or in ways of defeating that. So, if you deal in secure documentation, or the transport of secure things, like, you really want to know if something has been modified in some way. So that's incredibly important these days, to be able to validate that what you're receiving is what the sender intended for you to receive. So that was really cool.
And part of that is validating that vendors are actually selling you something real. Like if they say you stick this sticker on the envelope and it will break if anyone even attempts to open this. Well, we had like 3 different kinds of those at DEF CON this year, and everyone was able to bypass it with just like a nail file. and it looked perfectly fine. There's a contest that runs every year where you go, you have to open like a box and prove, like make it look like you didn't do it, and inside the box is something else, and you keep going in and in and in until you get to something, and you write a note, or you write down the code that's in the center of it, and then you redo it, and then there's a judge that goes through all of the layers and checks to see if it looks like it's been tampered with. I don't know who won that conference or that challenge this year, but there are a lot of contests at the same time at DefCon to get people directly interacting with people.
And that's definitely one of the most important aspects of the conference itself, is to be a part of that community and get to meet other people that you otherwise wouldn't. And so what's really exciting to me is that it's such an international conference. You literally have people flying in from all over the world, just all into technology. You can strike up a conversation with anyone. It's awesome. Like, literally going to a place where everybody's awesome is fantastic. That's one of the number one reasons I go to these things. And on that note as well, last year at DefCon 20, the badges were these electronic devices. These are actually computers that you received as a part of your badge, and they have transceivers on them that shoot infrared signals around. And like Sam was mentioning previously, there was a game that was played with these sort of things where your badge had to connect with other people's badges, and this was designed to help people sort of meet each other that otherwise might not meet each other. So there was just massive interaction. It was fantastic. These red ones here were a little dangerous, though. They would mess up your badge. And that's the ones that, as you know, part of the group of people who run the conference, we would have these ones. So, you know, there's that whimsical nature of messing with people as well. So.
Yeah.
And would you say kind of was at the conference, was the Hackerspace model sort of present in some ways, where like a lot of people who attend this kind of also involved in the hacker maker space movement, or is that kind of a separate focus?
I'd say that kind of mentality is really apparent in the hardware village and the contest areas. The talks are very, it's very, you know, there's a speaker on stage and it's talking out to the audience, so it's not really that, but there is. As far as like the DefCon staff and the way that it's organized, I wouldn't say that it's like a membership-driven thing. But there is, the conference obviously pays attention to what's going on in the world as far as computer security is concerned, and they take input for the papers that they're going to accept. But I'd say it's definitely more of a top-down driven model than like a membership-driven thing.
So. We were talking about sort of the definition of a hacker, and maybe the media sort of framing that in a certain way. And now with this huge conference where you guys can come together and show what that identity actually looks like, and also local events like Hack for BTV, where you had sort of business community supporting it and coming up with innovative challenges. How do you guys? It sort of seems like hackers are taking back that identity. What? I don't know if you guys could speak to that a little bit.
Well, it's been a really interesting change in culture, at least as long as I've been around, where traditionally, I sort of used to being more of an outcast, like as a geek and this sort of thing. But then the iPhone showed up, and all of a sudden it's cool to have tech, and people are interested in this sort of thing. So that's been interesting to navigate. But I'm excited that it's on people's radar now. I turn on the radio in the car, and I hear all over NPR just the importance of technology. And I go to YouTube and I see the latest TED Talk, and I see someone who's introduced something that's absolutely going to revolutionize an aspect of human life. So I really see technology is touching every aspect of human life in the future, and our responsibility is to help promote participation in the definition of what this is going to be used for and how it's going to benefit our lives. So hackerspaces can be an incubator space for that very thing, making this useful.
I do think that there are some large organizations that have come to appreciate what a hacker is. They were even started by hackers. For example, Google. Those guys, they built the original Google in a dorm room for a class project, and they turned it into Google. And the same thing with Facebook. That was, some people just hacking away on some code in a dorm room. And even more closely, Google and Facebook specifically have turned hackers to help make them better. They have rewards going out that if you are out in the community and you find a security flaw in their software, you can responsibly report it to them and get a reward if it's a real vulnerability. And there are all kinds of corporations that are starting to see, these hackers are helping us, and there's whole firms dedicated to telling corporations you've got this security flaw, and it's let us hire us, and we'll do an analysis of all your systems to help you become more secure and more aware of what's going on in your organization and how we can help you. So that outreach, I think that has started to happen with hackers, has sort of encouraged this more positive, more accurate definition of the word hacker.
And so when you're talking about the sort of spreading the wide, understanding of this technology kind of widely, do you see that as as an institution, I guess you can even say now, that has education as one of its core values? Do you see that as kind of offsetting or in opposition to kind of other ways of relating to technology? What does the world look like, or what is the alternative to what the hackerspace kind of is offering? And what is the improvement that the hackerspace is offering in that way? Well,
really just that ability to learn cooperatively with others, and in a non-structured, at your own pace sort of way. So rather than having to follow a curriculum and just take the same path that everyone else has in understanding of a problem, you're able to just dive in with both feet and just research what interests you and bounce ideas off of other people, and then things really organically come together really well in these projects just by having a couple people around. Say, hey, I've never explored this before. What have you done with that? Oh, well, you might want to think about this, and I never would have thought of that. So it's really just great, and also just not to have that pressure of a formal academic environment where I'm trying to push towards some sort of certification or degree necessarily. I have the freedom to explore and follow rabbit trails, and just whatever happens to cross my path. So that lends towards more creativity, I find.
Cool. So we've only got a few minutes left, so I was wondering if we could maybe finish with if you guys have any particular stories or interesting things you saw at DefCon, things that kind of impressed you that you'd like to share.
For the past 2 years, we've been doing this thing called Blood Code, where we do blood donations at DefCon. And last year specifically, the woman that ran it, it was the largest donation that she's ever seen, so much so that they actually had to ship blood out of the state because they couldn't use it in Nevada. This along the same lines, there was a bone marrow donation area where it would be the match was in our contest area, and they were taking cheek swabs from people and getting them signed up to be the beam match. And over the last year, they actually found a match from a person that had done their swab at DefCon and managed to save, I think it was a 16-year-old girl, because this community was willing to, they're not just about themselves, they want to make the world a better place. everything that they can do. A lot of time, there's a lot of charity fundraising that happens at DefCon, stuff for the ACLU and Hackers for Charity and the Electronic Frontier Foundation. There is a group of people called Mohawk Con. They give mohawks for donations for people at the conference, and I actually got one. It's not up right now. It's every year I am surprised by the amount of charity that happens at DefCon. These people that have taken so much time out of their life and already spent enough money to go to the conference out of their own pocket, and then they keep giving. So it's fantastic to see that kind of interaction.
And there's always really impressive technology and just talks that are given about ways of using technology in creative ways. So just for example, if you've ever played a computer game where you have to hack into something, normally, maybe like Metal Gear Solid or something like that. You pop open a panel and there's a circuit and you don't know what it does yet, but you got to figure it out, and then it's like a little puzzle. Well, it turns out that someone has actually created a device called a JTAGulator that basically takes 10 wires that you connect up to just random parts of the circuit. You don't really even have to know much about what's going on yet. Hit a button and it will analyze the entire circuit board for opportunities to reprogram it. So it will let you know, oh, I can do something with this. And, a lot of these systems are just sitting there on the wall, like, running whatever, and it can be entirely reprogrammed without anyone really ever knowing. So it's incredibly important to know that this sort of technology exists, and then to penetration test your own facilities, make sure that they're going to be reliable and safe and, not able to be tampered with. So, but how cool is that, to be able to pick up any circuit board on the planet and just plug some things in and then begin to play with it? I mean, that is just an incredibly excellent educational opportunity. And that's a life skill. If you've got that, I mean, what can't you do with that? So
there's always the terrifying things that get announced at DefCon and its sister conference, Black Hat, and silly things. There was, I think Black Hat had the talk where there was a vulnerability in smart toilets. Where someone could remotely flush your toilet. And then there was things like cellular interception through femtocells, the cell phone tower that you can get and put in your home if you don't have enough service. And it was actually pretty scary. You can turn any of those into like a wiretapping system for anybody that gets near you. And so it's like exposing these vulnerabilities from the silly to incredibly scary. That also happens every year.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys both for taking the time out of your Sunday night to come on in and talk to us. So you've been watching Cooperative Vermont. We come to you every 2 weeks here on VCAM, and if you're interested in checking out Lab B, the next Co-op Happy Hour will be there. So that is Tuesday, September 10th, I think from 6 to 8 p.m. There'll be pizza and good conversation, and you can learn more about the space. So until our next episode, I'm Matt Cropp.
And I'm Eric Davis.
Good night.